All right. I did not think I'd be going live again, but what is up, everybody? The United States has officially struck Iran. We have officially struck 3 of Iranian's nuclear facilities, and I want to do a live stream breaking this down. As you can see on the screen right here, Trump will be speaking in 36 minutes to be exact. So we've got a lot of run through in that time, and there's no time to waste. Let's just start with the basic facts. Donald Trump released this Truth Social post that reads, "We have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. All planes are now outside of the Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordow. All planes are safely on their way home." So, after Trump addressed Fordow, then we continue to see reports coming out of the U.S. striking Iran's nuclear facilities. It has been a long day. We've been going all day. I did my one live stream, I logged off, and now we are back. So I love everybody for being here. If you're watching the live stream after the fact, you can make sure to drop a like below, drop some blue hearts, subscribe with the notification on if you never want to miss a live stream. Sometimes people miss the live streams, that's okay. But if you have the notification bell on, then you won't miss it. So in about 35 minutes, to be exact, Donald Trump will be speaking about this to the nation. He'll be addressing the nation. In the meantime, let's update some of the breaking news. As Axios reports, the U.S. military conducted airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities in Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan on Sunday morning local time. President Trump, who announced a, quote, very successful attacks on Truth Social, said he would deliver an address to the nation at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. He's addressing the nation at 10 p.m. Now, why it matters. Trump's decision to intervene directly in support of Israel's effort to dismantle Iran's nuclear program marks a historic escalation in the Middle East. And yes, we will talk about how he claimed to be the no new wars president. We'll talk about all of this before Donald Trump addresses the nation in just a little bit. Again, Trump will be addressing the nation and we'll be covering it all. So, I guess we can just start with the fundamental fact, that Donald Trump, before entering office, called himself the no new wars president. He said none of this would ever happen if I were the president. Not only that, but he said he would fix it on day one. Then he gets into office and unconstitutionally launches an attack against Iran to escalate. Now, I don't think Iran will return fire on U.S. soil, but there are a lot of troops stationed in the Middle East, U.S. troops, and I want to talk a lot about retaliation or potential retaliation as well. Donald Trump will be addressing the nation very, very shortly. It's worth pointing out that in 2013, he tweeted out, quote, "Remember that I predicted a long time ago that President Obama will attack Iran because of his inability to negotiate properly, not skilled." Donald Trump in 2013, there's always a tweet for it, he projected 12 years into the future, because this all is downstream from his inability to cut a deal with Iran. Obama did cut a deal. In 2015, he did negotiate a deal, and you know what? Donald Trump pulled us out of that deal when he got into office. After Trump pulled us out of this deal, Iran then began to enrich their uranium. They then began to create nukes, and that led us directly into this situation. Donald Trump's weakness, his inability to negotiate, caused this directly. Yet he's clearly projecting. Yep, very good quote in chat. Quote, "You're gambling with World War III," is what Trump told Zelensky. But now all of a sudden, Trump can send B-2 bombers across the Pacific Ocean into the Middle East, and he's not gambling with World War III. Striking a country that he admits, or he thinks is creating nuclear bombs, it seems like they were getting closer and closer. But he said, in 2013, one more time, "Remember that I predicted a long time ago that President Obama will attack Iran because of his inability to negotiate properly, not skilled." There is always a tweet for it. He has not been able to negotiate. California Governor Gavin Newsom immediately responded by saying, quote, "Following the president's action in Iran, California State Threat Assessment Center is actively monitoring for any potential impacts in California. While there are no specific or credible counter threats we are aware of at this time, we urge everyone to stay vigilant and report suspicious activity. That is what true leadership looks like. Meanwhile, Trump is sending out Truth Social posts, a full payload of bombs. What kind of infant puts bombs in all caps while announcing a United States strike on a foreign country? One more time, for everybody joining, Donald Trump will be speaking at about this time in 31 minutes. Usually he's late, but he campaigned on ending all wars. He said he'd bring the troops home, and he mocked other presidents for being warmongers. We have these quotes that we can show you, and now all of a sudden he is escalating within the Middle East when who pulled us out of Afghanistan? Biden was the true no new wars president. Not only did Biden pull us out of Afghanistan, not being afraid to get a little bit of egg on his face and messing up, but at the same time, Biden armed Ukraine to the teeth. I personally think Biden should have gone farther with Ukraine. I think he should have gone farther and threatened Putin even harder just to show that they can't have a monopoly on escalatory rhetoric, that we'll strike back and use the same type of escalatory rhetoric. But what I want to say is Biden is the one who pulled us out of Afghanistan. Biden made sure that the war with Ukraine and Russia was rather contained within Ukraine's borders. Now Russia is continuing to escalate, continuing to take land, and is absolutely disgusting. So just to loop from the beginning, we currently have 4,000 people. Trump is speaking in about 30 minutes, and he said about an hour ago, we have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, including Fordo, Natanz, and Esfahan. All planes are now outside of the Iran airspace. A full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site, Fordo. He then uses his weird bravado, but like, dude, why is bombs in all cap? Why do you have to post in such an infantile way? And why it matters. Trump's decision marks a historic escalation in the Middle East. It's also blatantly unconstitutional. You have to go through Congress, and let's do a little bit of learning on stream. I know that we all know this, but I like going to the core source documents. Cornell Law School defines war powers. War powers refers to both Congress and the president's constitutional powers over military or armed conflicts by the United States. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 of the U.S. Constitution grants Congress the power to declare war. The president derives the power to direct the military after a congressional declaration of war from Article 2, Section 2. If you've read Article 2, Section 2, Trump has basically broken almost every single, article or amendment. The president shall be the commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of several states when called into the actual service of the United States. Now, he shall have the power by, and with the advice and consent of the Senate, to make treaties. You need to go through Congress to be doing almost all of this. When you go to Section 8, listen to this. Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to borrow money. Basically, this gives Congress the power of the purse. It also gives Congress the power to declare war, grant letters, make rules concerning captures on land and water, to raise and support armies. We are going down to the core legal argument here, just so you guys know. So just to go back, war powers refers to Congress and the president's constitutional powers. These provisions require cooperation between the president and Congress regarding military affairs, with Congress funding or declaring the operation and the president directing it. He didn't go through Congress. In fact, there are currently Republican congressmen who are saying this is not constitutional. Thomas Massie just said this is not constitutional. To continue, Representative Thomas Massie, one of the most vocal Republicans pushing against American intervention in Iran, posted this on X. He said, quote, "This is not our war. But if it were, Congress must decide such matters according to our Constitution. I'm introducing a bipartisan war power resolution. Now, Thomas Massey said that a few weeks ago. One second. These ads are popping up. Then Trump announced a full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site. Massey wanted to introduce a war powers resolution in the House just last Tuesday that would prohibit American involvement. Now, all of them are going to be lining up, and let me tell you, the only reason Trump did this is because he thinks he can take an optical win with Iran. He absolutely has to go through Congress. He campaigned on ending wars. And the big headline is none of this would have happened if he didn't pull us out of the Iran nuclear deal. Now, I want to talk in 1 second about retaliation or potential retaliation. Let's continue to read this. This marks a historic escalation in the Middle East. It's an intervention fraught with risks and uncertainty, one that Trump and many of his predecessors had sought to avoid, including through diplomacy with Iran. But diplomacy is really not Trump's strong suit. Why do diplomacy when you can just literally post on Truth Social? He said, I'll be giving an address to the nation at 10 p.m. at the White House regarding our very successful military operation in Iran. This is a historic moment for the United States of America, Israel, and the world. Iran must now agree to end this war. Thank you. Dude, what happened to the no new wars guy?
It's what happened tonight.
And John, as you know, all presidents come into office with plans for the homeland, their domestic agenda and all the things that they want to do. And Trump himself very vocal about ending foreign wars and not wanting to engage in long, extended conflicts. This, no doubt, I mean, can you even compare this to a decision he made in his first term? Is this the biggest, most consequential decision he's ever made as a president of the United States?
I don't think there's any doubt that on the facts we know right now, this is the most consequential decision Donald Trump has ever made. And we don't know, is this going to be consistent with his promise to end forever wars? His allies are making that case. They're actually saying that although this was a military action, it was a military action that they believe will prove to have done away with a threat that has been a shadow over American policy in the Middle East for nearly a half a century.
Here's my take. Trump is only jumping in to grab credit at the last second for something that he deems a win on Israel's behalf. It's all about optics. He basically is the dude. Have you ever opened a jar basically and you give it to someone and they pop it open and they clearly didn't do anything? That's what Trump's doing. He's taking credit. He did nothing. He's just hopping in for absolute optics, and it just pulls the United States in a war that we... Oh. My bad. What I was trying to say is Donald Trump hopped in this war for absolutely zero reason, basically just trying to take credit for work that Israel already did. Donald Trump is like the dude who, you do most of the group project, and he hops in at the last second. Donald Trump is not only doing that, but he's unnecessarily involving the U.S. in putting U.S. troops at risk in the Middle East, which is even worse.
The threat of the Iranian regime. But let's remember also what Donald Trump said in his inaugural address. Very important words, besides saying he wanted to be known as a peacemaker. He said that he will measure results by the wars that he has ended, and perhaps more importantly, by the wars that he has not, that we do not get into. Now, we don't know.
Trump has not ended any wars. Who pulled us out of Afghanistan? That's the question. Joe Biden pulled us out of Afghanistan. Meanwhile, Ron Filipkowski points out, the people who cheerleaded us into every war in the past are doing it again, joined by MAGA cultists willing to set aside former positions since dear leader is infallible. Lots of wars ended with a single non-nuclear airstrike, so I'm sure this is all over now. What wars has Trump ended? I feel like almost every single war has escalated in a bunch of ways. Think about it. When Trump uses this level of indecision, this level of weakness, it allows Vladimir Putin to take more land. It allows people in the Middle East, bad actors, to be emboldened. He let Netanyahu dog walk him and drag him into this war, and now Trump is post hoc, after the fact, trying to jump in because he thinks he can take a win, when in fact, he's unnecessarily putting American lives at risk in an unconstitutional way. Somebody said, "This was by far the most needless strike we have done ever. Israel has achieved a substantial amount of the objectives already, and the United States only intervened to target 3 random places. If we're going to interject, at least make it worth it and not performative." What Donald Trump did was entirely performative. Behind the scenes, Trump met with his national security team in the White House on Saturday evening. Again, he'll be speaking in a little bit live. Make sure you stick around. I also want to talk about potential retaliatory effects from Iran because they are now issuing statements. But to continue, Governor Gavin Newsom said, "Following the president's action in Iran, California's State Threat Assessment Center is actively monitoring for any potential impacts in California. While there are no specific or credible counter threats we are aware of at this time, we urge everyone to stay vigilant and report suspicious activity." Tommy Vitor said, "Trump just took us to war with Iran without explaining why it was necessary or getting authorization from Congress. He is weak and got manipulated into doing Netanyahu's dirty work. What a pathetic lying moron. Not only that, but he's been manipulated into doing the dirty work of almost every single authoritarian dictator who is a little bit more clever than him. For example, Vladimir Putin has eaten Trump's lunch, as Kamala Harris said he would. When Trump got into office, he tried to negotiate this peace deal between Vladimir Putin and between Zelensky. Zelensky immediately laid down his arms, followed the peace deal, and said, "Sure, we'll do this." Putin continued to take land and actually used Donald Trump's quote-unquote peace deal as an opportunity to engage more, to kill more Ukrainian civilians. Now, Ukrainian civilians were being bombed relentlessly, and of course the soldiers, but I just mean like Russia does not play by international rules. They are taking territory, killing civilians, and Trump's weakness allowed Vladimir Putin to take more and more territory. Because of this direct weakness, Donald Trump has set this precedent that he can just be dog-walked by any single dictator on earth, any single world leader. People are asking, is the Constitution being broken here? The question is yes, and we just went over this, but I think it's really important. Trump speaks in 19 minutes, but the War Powers Clause. War powers refers to both Congress and the president's constitutional powers over military or armed conflicts by the United States. We have a good amount of people on the stream watching, so I just want to make sure everybody's aware that when the president unilaterally, by himself, tries to declare war, that is unconstitutional. We can go to the direct section of the Constitution, Section 8 of Article 2. It says, Article 1, Section 8, my bad. It says, Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, such as the power of the purse, which Elon Musk has broken himself, but Congress has the power to declare war, to grant letters, to make rules concerning captures on land and water. Yet Trump did this unilaterally without Congress, and many people are pointing that out. Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs said, Trump's strikes against Iran are not only unconstitutional, but an escalation that risks bringing the U.S. into another endless war. That is Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs of California's 51st District. Over here you have Representative Jason Crow. I'm seeking more information about the strikes against Iran, but here's what we do know. Trump broke a promise to prevent America from entering new conflicts. Trump has once again exceeded his authority, and Congress must act now and reclaim the constitutional power over America's use of military force. Let's try to make a list of all of the constitutional clauses or amendments or articles that Trump's broken. So with Elon Musk, they broke the power of the purse. What about the Emoluments Clause when Donald Trump took a gift from Qatar? He's now broken the War Powers Clause. We could honestly sit here for a 3-hour live stream and list every single constitutional aspect that Trump has broken. Didn't he sign an executive order within his first week to try to end the constitutional right of birthright citizenship? This dude hates the Constitution. He would spit on it and tear it up, and I hope every single Trump supporter knows that. He speaks in 15 minutes, but I don't expect anything unique. Has he ever said anything unique? This reads, U.S. military now briefing troops that its strike on Iran will, quote, likely result in counterstrikes on U.S. bases and facilities in the Middle East, and likely activate Iran and other foreign terrorist organization cells abroad, including the U.S., to conduct strikes against U.S. persons and facilities. Of course, there are going to be retaliatory attacks from the Middle East. Senator Bernie Sanders reacted to this live.
This is a statement from Donald Trump, quote, we have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran, etc. I agree. And I want to tell you something. Not only is this news that I've just heard, the second alarming that all of you have just heard, but it is so grossly unconstitutional. All of you know that the only entity that can take this country to war is the U.S. Congress. The President does not have the right.
That's what we've been touching on, and that's the consistent theme. Donald Trump is taking us to war without the authorization of Congress. And we can honestly predict exactly what he's going to say. He's going to walk out there and say the United States dropped a big, beautiful bomb, bigger than any bomb. He's going to say no other country could have done this, and then he's going to rant for a few minutes.
Is this, again, going to be proved to be effectively ending a low-grade war that the United States has been engaged in for 46 years since the Iranian...
A lot of people are asking me if this is World War III. I don't personally think so. I think it's way too early to be saying things like that. I think you can't predict things like that. But Trump is about to address the nation. We'll watch it live. What we know about the 3 nuclear sites targeted by the United States. The U.S. has struck 3 key nuclear sites in Iran, President Trump said. The nuclear complex in Natanz, about 250 kilometers south of the capital Tehran, is considered Iran's largest uranium enrichment facility. Analysts say it is used to develop and assemble centrifuges for uranium enrichment, a key technology that turns uranium into nuclear fuel. We will also talk about the potential retaliatory attacks that could happen from Iran. I don't think it would go into the United States. If anything, Iran would strike bases in the Middle East that contain U.S. soldiers. That's been the prevailing theory at this moment. Could you imagine if Kamala did these strikes? Just imagine if Kamala did these strikes. Yep, as somebody in chat said, this is not World War III. No, yeah, exactly. This is not what it means. This is the U.S. striking Iran. Analysts say it is used to develop and assemble centrifuges for uranium enrichment. Further, much is still unknown about the full size and nature of this facility. I guess the overall point is, and this was made well by Tommy Vitor, very well, the United States basically did nothing. This was by far one of the most needless strikes we could have ever possibly done. And by the way, I'm 22 years old myself. I didn't go to college. Or I did, but I dropped out after a year and a half. I don't want to get drafted into a war that I voted against, by the way. Most Americans don't want to get drafted. Most Americans don't want anything to do with this or any other endless Middle Eastern war. But even if we want to talk legality, it's of course not legal. Tommy Vitor says, Donald Trump just took us to war with Iran without explaining why it was necessary or getting authorization from Congress. He's weak and got manipulated into doing Netanyahu's dirty work. But to continue, Iran will have to calibrate what their response will be. Why does Trump get us into escalatory wars after promising he wouldn't? Let's see how Fox News is covering this.
Said, now is the time for peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter. There are other targets that were left untouched today. There are refineries. That is the heart and soul of the Iranian economy. I happen to know that most of them are centrally located in one area in this little island off Iran. That would be probably one of the easiest targets our military would ever have to hit. That would be the end of their economy. If you wanted to take out their power grid, it's gas-driven. That also would be a very easy target, especially in light of what the United States military, under the command of President Trump, was able to do tonight.
The ghouls on Fox News are celebrating. How can the Republican Party flip-flop this seamlessly from being the no new war party to Fox News just openly celebrating? 1 second, let me show you this clip.
Peace. So I want the so-called, I don't know what to call them, people running around, warmonger, the sloganeers. This should be an education for you, too. This should be an education for you, too. America, don't you feel relief? Of course you feel relief.
What type of weird gaslighting? Anyone in chat feel relieved, uniquely relieved after, sorry, my screen keeps moving, after the United States bombed Iran?
This should be an education for you, too. America, don't you feel relief? Of course you feel relief.
I liked the Bernie Sanders rally a lot better. This was probably the best clip I've seen thus far. Bernie Sanders points out how it's straight up illegal.
This is a statement from Donald Trump, quote, "We have completed our very successful attack on the 3 nuclear sites in Iran," etc.
That's Trump straight up getting booed.
I agree. And I want to tell you something. Not only is this news that I've just heard the second alarming that all of you have just heard, but it is so grossly unconstitutional. All of you know that the only entity that can take this country to war is the U.S. Congress. The president does not have the right.
Let's see Twitter's live reaction. AOC said, "The president's disastrous decision to bomb Iran without authorization is a grave violation of the Constitution and congressional war powers. He has impulsively risked launching a war that may ensnare us for generations. It is absolutely and clearly grounds for impeachment," says AOC. And one more time, we're waiting for the White House to go live any minute now. It just says, stay tuned. Trump should be live in less than 10 minutes addressing the nation. What are you talking about, old videos? This video from Bernie Sanders is just from today. Marjorie Taylor Greene says, "Every time America is on the verge of greatness, we get involved in another foreign war. There would not be bombs falling on the people of Israel if Netanyahu had not dropped bombs on the people of Iran first. Israel is a nuclear-armed nation. This is not our fight. Peace is the answer." So, Marjorie Taylor Greene, there are a lot of factions splitting within the MAGA fan base. Can I one more time remind everybody that Donald Trump tweeted out in 2013. It's a great time to remind the stream that this post from 2013 from Donald Trump reads, quote, "Remember that I predicted a long time ago that President Obama will attack Iran because of his inability to negotiate properly, not skilled. The only reason we are currently in this situation is because Donald Trump decided to pull us out of Obama's nuclear deal that he negotiated in 2015. After Donald Trump decided to pull us out of this, Iran continued to enrich their uranium, or at least that is the claim. That was the pretext used to launch this. So there's always a tweet for it. You guys see like how this isn't even ironic anymore. This is just pure gaslighting. To continue here.
All of the equipment and facilities, but if you can set them back a number of years, that you weaken them dramatically, you could potentially reset peace talks or nuclear negotiations in the future. How much of a setback do you think a strike like this could be for Iran?
Well, there's two things that I'm very worried we haven't destroyed. The first thing is Iran's highly enriched uranium that was previously stored at Isfahan.
Oh, wow. I think we just received a video of it. Let me see. Nope, wrong video. Look at this. They still have this up. Look at what the GOP tweeted. Vote the pro-peace ticket. Really? The pro-peace ticket. Remember when Trump tweeted something out? Something to the effect of, I've saved Putin's ass so many times. Let me find this Truth Social post. He said, one time on Truth Social, this was one of the most wild posts. The pro-peace president said on Truth Social, what Vladimir Putin doesn't realize is that if it weren't for me, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia. And I mean really bad. He's playing with fire, meaning the president of the United States is openly coming out saying that he was running defense and preventing bad things from happening. Someone in chat says, have I missed anything? You've missed a lot. The United States has officially entered the war and struck Iran's nuclear facilities. Trump will be addressing the nation in just a few minutes, and nobody is quite happy, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, who said, every time America is on the verge of greatness, we get involved in another foreign war. What do they say about broken clocks again? Netanyahu.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history.
Holy propaganda. Elizabeth Warren, the United States should not wage war against Iran. Donald Trump's bombing of Iran is unconstitutional. Only Congress can declare war, and the Senate must vote immediately to prevent another endless war. This is a horrific war of choice. Yeah, I'm sure the Republicans in the Senate will immediately grow a spine and begin to vote Donald Trump, I don't know, to vote that he can't declare war. Right after they declare his tariffs unconstitutional or illegal, right after they impeach him, yeah, the Republicans are never going to grow a damn spine. The pro-peace ticket, says the GOP. Ryan Macbeth with a good breakdown. Any Ryan Macbeth fans? Great analyst.
President Trump just announced that U.S. bombers just hit Fordo in Iran. Fordo is a uranium enrichment site that is very, very deep underground. Most likely these targets were hit with B-2s dropping GBU-57 bunker buster bombs. I was not expecting this to happen. So what's going to happen next? First off, we might see U.S. bases in the Middle East come under fire by Iranian ballistic missiles. And second, I could see the Strait of Hormuz kind of becoming a war zone, so you might see gas prices spike a little bit if oil tankers can't get out of the Strait of Hormuz. But you want to know the really funny thing? I am reading this book right now, The Never-Ending War, which is about terrorism during the 80s. This book has a publication date of 1987. And other than the terrorism of the Irish Republican Army, Iran had its hands in basically every kind of terrorism going on during the 1980s. And while I don't necessarily agree that this was needed, the president did make a decision. I understand why he made the decision. And what we might see next is the dissolution of a regime that has only exported two things during its entire lifetime since 1979, belligerence and oil. And
Yeah, so here's the thing. He said it in it. He said none of this was necessary, but he understands the president's, decision. It wasn't necessary. We've made this point multiple times, but it was one of the most unnecessary strikes possible. If you're going to get us involved in another Middle Eastern war, then at least make the strike substantive, not just like a little strike on top of what Israel has already done. Israel achieved like a substantial amount of their goals, and the United States needlessly, unnecessarily, and performatively ends up hopping in the war. Will Stansel says, impeach Trump immediately. The president cannot unilaterally declare war on another country without even the slightest pretense of emergency, simply because Netanyahu begged and pleaded him to. That's the act of a dictator, fighting wars on a whim for personal relationships. Trump is an authoritarian madman who doesn't care what the Constitution, doesn't care about it or know what it says. He started a war against a huge nation over the advice of his own intelligence officials. Please remember, he's been intentionally pushing out and freezing Tulsi Gabbard and Pete Hegseth from the cut. I can't tell if this is worse or better. Trump Insider reveals nobody is talking to Pete Hegseth. I can't tell if Pete Hegseth not being involved is better, or if the fact that our defense secretary is so incompetent nobody trusts him is terrifying. I think they're both... Oh, shit, that scared... Sorry, that timer scared the shit out of me. Well, Trump is supposed to take the stage any moment. I'm sure he'll be uniquely late, as always. Well, Trump is supposed to speak any second. Yeah, that doomsday clock scared the shit out of me for a second. I was like, oh my lord. Nobody is speaking to Hegseth as the crisis looms. I thought I was over for a second. I'm sorry. Donald Trump is sidestepping his own defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, while seeking advice on whether to launch a military strike against Iran, according to a report. An unnamed U.S. official told the Washington Post that the president is instead turning to a couple four-star generals. Look at how that works. Once you actually get into power, it's not as fun to rely on the television personalities for your war plans. Is Pete even sober for this? That's a good question. Let's continue reading through.
No small feat. It's historic in every respect. Let me tell you something. On my show tomorrow, I'm not plugging it, I just want people to know. We're going to deal with this War Powers Act. We're going to explain why it's unconstitutional. We're going to explain why the Democrats and people like Tommy Massey and Rand Paul and the other whatever, why they're waving it around. Because they don't believe that we should use our military in this way either, and they do not believe in the Constitution of the United States. This man just defended the free world.
He defended the free world by using military might. We've heard these arguments before. They're saying it's going to be like a historic regime change. Okay, the speech is beginning. Let's go.
What exactly are you going to be looking to hear from the president? This is going to be the first time we've heard him on camera.
I think the president will very likely deliver a very astute, informative, unique speech. He's known for just his really vivid quotes, and I don't know. Oh my lord, here he comes. He's gonna say the same 3 words. It was huge. It was amazing.
Vice President Vance and others. It looks like Secretary Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio here. Let's listen to the president after the strikes on Iran.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise.
He's heard those names for the first time today.
Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace.
They don't even know where to stand. Why do they look so awkward? Why are they standing in such a weird formation?
If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death.
What is this boy band ass?
Now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane.
If you took a shot for every time he dropped a superlative, or every time he said it's the best or the biggest or the greatest, you would literally be dead already. And again, what's up with this boy band setup?
Spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days.
How can you say there's going to be peace directly off the back of dropping bombs in the Middle East, which will inherently have retaliatory measures? You just got us into a war. What do you mean peace? You don't know what peace means.
Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most...
Wait, did he just call for peace and then say there are many targets left? Meaning like...
There will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon.
Oh no, 8 a.m. He's like, shit, I can't go out to the bar tonight if it's 8 a.m.
And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military.
Shout out God, I guess. Fuck.
It's just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them.
Thank the Academy. Thank God.
God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel. And God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wow. What an epic walk-off. Oh my God. It's like the Avengers kindergarten cousins. Not intimidating. How did he say that we were about to have peace? And then the next second he said there were more strikes. Are we cooked? That's our president? At least he looks totally hinged and not orange during all of this. But let me say, Donald Trump just pulled the United States into a new war, and I think he's delusional if he says that there's not going to be any retaliation from any of these countries. By the way, again, what is this? What is this weird-ass setup? Boy band-ass setup. It's crazy that the U.S. can just unilaterally bomb a country. The United States can just decide to bomb a country, not go through Congress, and now Trump expects there to be no retaliation. I feel like something about this was very, very underwhelming. Now, a lot of people are asking if this is World War III. I don't think that it'll escalate to World War III. I don't think that's what it means. But it is very unconstitutional. I mean, we talked about this earlier. Congress has the power to declare war. It's unconstitutional to just pull the United States in a war because you think that Benjamin Netanyahu, you know, deserves it.
Facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise.
I'm sorry, he's such an idiot. All right, I'm going to log off for the night. It's been a long day, but if you enjoyed the stream and you don't want to miss tomorrow's stream, we're going to go live immediately tomorrow and do a big stream. Don't miss it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below. Make sure you have the bell on. We are going to build a network that is better than anything MAGA has right now, and I love all of you. This was a solid stream. We did 2 today. We'll do 1 more tomorrow. We'll keep building. Have a good summer. Join the Discord below.